Good evening. Oh, honey, you're in my seat. How'd you get
Oh,
there?
no, you got us backwards. There we go. Cool.
Awesome.
Yeet.
Welcome
All
to the
right.
Safe Talk Show. Of course, I'm Aeson Knight. I'm with Techie Joe as normal. We're covering the news and the events and all the fun things.
Absolutely.
Hello, Miss Brenda. How are you?
Hey, Brenda.
It's been a decent day.
Yes.
Well, that's kind of nice to see notifications again. Can we talk about this a minute?
Oh, no, what we got?
Outlook. I have been an Outlook boy since it was way back in 1990. I think it came out in 98, somewhere around there. Windows 98. It's got a remake. I finally moved to the remake because the old one stopped working. And suddenly I'm getting notifications and emails I hadn't gotten in months. So this will be fun to sort out.
Yes. I will say with the new Outlook, don't be surprised if you see it. And all I know how to call it at this point is it's stutter. It seems to be an app that no longer enjoys being left open for extended long days.
Right.
Like, I know you kind of tend to leave Outlook open for like days, weeks, months at a time. I will say the new Outlook stutters a lot with that. So yeah, if you're looking for something or something seems wonky, close it and bring it back up. You'll probably see it fix itself. Yeah, I've seen it pull some stunts. The new I'm not loving the new Outlook. I think they've got some work to do. I think it was released a little prematurely. I don't think it went through very rigorous testing. It works great, it seems, for single mailboxes. So if you only have the one email account and that's all you put in it, I think it'll do great. But if you're working multiple accounts and doing all the things, yeah, you're going to want to close and reopen that a few times a day.
Yeah. Well, luckily I restart multiple times a day. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Right. So
I mean, feature-wise, it works great. I will say that.
Cool. Yeah, I like the other mailbox.
Okay.
And like, there's the inbox that things come in, and then there's the other mailbox that the crap can go in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Always useful. Always useful.
Yeah. We'll see how everything else works. I still have to move my Aeson Knight over there, but you know, I have to have Techie Joe help with that because it's not an automatic setup.
No, it is not. It requires some steps.
Yes, so Techie can do that for me.
Absolutely.
But not right now. Right now, let's talk about Psychic in the News.
Alrighty. So, João Teixeira de Faria from Brazil turned himself into authorities after more than 600 accusations of sexual abuse were made against him. So, a man who claimed to be a self-proclaimed psychic surgeon was sentenced to 489 years and 4 months in prison on charges including sexual assault. So João Teixeira de Faria from Brazil was a widely known psychic and medium who called himself a psychic surgeon. Faria was even interviewed by Oprah Winfrey when the TV presenter traveled to Brazil as part of the second season of Oprah's Next Chapter in 2013. Oprah subsequently released a statement saying, "I empathize with the women now coming forward and hope justice is served." This is not his only appearance on TV either, with Faria also being interviewed by ABC about the treatments he claimed to be offering. This followed 5 people who were suffering with a range of medical conditions and who had gone to Faria for help. As part of the segment, skeptic James Randi was interviewed, but expressed concerns that parts of his interview criticizing Faria were cut from the final segment. Faria operated from the town of Abandia, Abandia in Brazil, in the Brazil interior. In 2018, disturbing allegations about Faria came to light, with several women claiming Faria had sexually abused them. Reporting at the time, the New York Times called Faria the first major Brazilian casualty of the Me Too movement. The women shared their accounts in an appearance on a Brazilian TV show. After the episode aired, dozens of other women started to come forward with their own accounts of abuse at the hands of Faria, who called himself John of God. The district attorney's office in the Brazilian state of Goiás set up a dedicated task force, including 5 prosecutors and 2 psychologists, to investigate the case. In just 36 hours, the task force went on to receive a further 78 complaints, according to prosecutor Patricia Ottoni. Speaking to the New York Times at the time, Ottoni said, "We have a serious challenge ahead. We want to show the victims that they can trust us, that even someone who is famous and internationally admired can be investigated. But we also need to analyze each complaint before rushing to conclusions." Faria denied the accusations, with a spokesperson claiming the mounting
Lynch mob feeling, accusations quickly mounted, with more than 600 accusations of sexual assault being made against Faria. The allegation between. Welcome back.
All right. So the allegations ranged between 1986 and 2017, and the youngest accuser claimed to be just 14 years old at the time. Ultimately, an arrest warrant was issued, and Faria handed himself in to police. He was sentenced to 118 years, 6 months, and 15 days in prison over the sexual assault charges. Following the trial, he was also convicted of a number of other offenses, including illegal possession of a firearm. In total, his sentences add up to 489 years and 4 months.
And I'm going to be butch. I hope he sells every single day.
Well, there's so much, the story is the story, and that's one story. Based on your reaction, when I saw this one in the news and shared, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you've had issues with this guy for a while.
I have issues with his practices. I have issues with his behaviors. He would tell people to go off their chemo.
Mm-hmm.
He would tell people to, that he could instantly heal you by his touch.
Mm-hmm.
I have issues with that. He had no training. He popped up out of nowhere, and it suddenly was given a platform with the right press agent.
Yes. Well, and apparently popped up out of nowhere in 1986. Right. And that's a very long span of time.
Right.
I'm not trying to doubt anyone's accusation. I'm not.
Right.
That's not it. I have major issue though that's what 14 plus another 17. So that is what, 31 years?
31 years.
Yeah. 31 years.
Right.
How?
Right.
You know what I mean? how 600 accusations of sexual abuse
Right.
covering 31 years. Again, I'm not doubting anyone's accusation. I'm just going, how does any society allow that kind of egregious amount?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to be flippant. I'm not trying to be rude. Sexual assault, sexual abuse, all very serious charges. Uh, for most human beings, one charge, one instance, one person can put you in jail.
And
2 or 3 is generally considered a crime spree, and like, my God, you're a serial offender. 600 is just staggering.
right. But you have to understand that, we're just seeing this with P. Diddy, we're seeing this with others. These, him included, were treated as untouchable.
Like, I just, it's just an ungodly number.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's, I don't know the words. I really don't.
Right.
I really don't. To in any society. I mean, because we've seen this with Harvey Weinstein. We've seen this, like you're saying, current in the news is P. Diddy. Just, but like, how?
Right.
Like, and we saw it with Bill Cosby. Like,
Right.
I don't get, and I don't. I'm true, different country, and I get that things are handled. Things aren't handled the same, is what Brenda's saying, and I get that part. But even in our own country,
Right.
we still have this much celebrity worship that it's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, I don't want to be rude and minimize anyone. That's not my comment. If you
Right.
told me that, someone got away with, because of their celebrity,
Mm-hmm.
sexually assaulting or abusing a person,
Mm-hmm.
a couple people,
Mm-hmm.
a few people,
Mm-hmm.
I can wrap my head around that.
Right.
But I'm sitting here going, now, granted, the lack of repercussion is what quickly allows this to snowball and go crazy. I'm
Right.
sure that most of these were not in 1986, that this has been a snowballing problem. That,
Mm-hmm.
like, you did the bad thing, nothing happened, you learned that you could get away with the bad thing, you did the bad thing more
Right.
over those 31 years.
Right.
I can get that. I, I figure by the point at which you're 30 some 20 some years into this, what, daily, just about, like, you just, everywhere you go, anyone you meet, you're just like, hi, we're gonna do this thing.
On
We're
average, 16 a year.
That's what I'm
Reported.
saying. Reported.
Reported.
Which theoretically, that's, assuming,
Mm-hmm.
because most sexual assaults and abuse aren't reported. So that's what I'm saying, is at that point, like, at least once a week,
Right. But this
you're
is the
sexually
power he
assaulting
has,
or abusing someone, statistically.
statistically. Okay. It, but this is the power that these psychics get. And when I say power, I'm not talking psychic energy. I'm talking star power. And we'll go into the scenario. I live in a little podunk town.
Mm-hmm.
If I start hitting big press and bringing thousands of people to this town a week
Mm-hmm.
for a session with me, people aren't going to bat it. The town then becomes dependent.
So basically, it's economically disincentivized from listening to allegations or pursuing criminal charges.
Right. And he's a
So,
man
so
of God.
basically, yeah. But at the same point, again, I would think, and I'm not trying to make light of or like here's the manual.
Mm-hmm.
But because Brenda's comment to have a woman believed over a celebrity without proof, women still have trouble being believed. I understand that, but this is a lot of women.
Right.
And I would think more to the point, at the rate he had to be doing this,
Right.
I would expect that there are enough people around him to be going,
Right.
what the fuck? Again, like, and in no way am I trying to make light of this ever, but if he, did one act
Mm-hmm.
in 1986,
Mm-hmm.
and he became unprofessional, touched one person inappropriately, I could see 31 years later
Mm-hmm.
that being a thing that's like, did he, didn't he, is he sorry, is he not sorry, and that setting unexamined for 31 years.
Right.
But to just continuously operate in this way, I like, and I do understand the concept that women who report are often not believed. They're given, this kind of like shit testing. Or are you sure that it wasn't unintentional? Are you sure that, it's he said, she said, it's not on camera? Like, I get that to an extent, but I would, again, kind of expect some of his later victims
Mm-hmm.
that this isn't just, an inappropriate touch here or there.
Mm-hmm.
I would figure probably about 20 years into this, there's no mistake.
Right.
Like there's no, well, he kind of touched me somewhere I would think he shouldn't have.
Right.
I would think that at least by year 20, this has started to move into, this is obviously you're touching people inappropriately.
Right.
Just there's no question. I would assume by like year 5, it started to move into that category.
Right.
That it's like, this isn't questionable. Like he might have perhaps inappropriately, like in a he said, she said, maybe I'm misunderstanding, maybe it wasn't intentional, like that kind of argument.
Right.
And by the point that, so basically by 91,
Mm-hmm.
I figure it's starting to get more obvious. And then after that, but at least by year 20, I would assume that it's like there's no questions.
Right.
It's just, how are you not getting busted doing it? Because you no longer have fear of doing it.
Yeah, and what gets me even worse was his defense.
Oh boy. What's the defense? Yeah, and Brenda's pointing out, but until that first one gets believed and gets someone willing to prosecute, it's hard to tell
Right.
how many tried until someone was able to accomplish both. And I do get that that is a lot of what the Me Too movement has been. It is a rallying point around egregious sexual predators, as in prolific. Like, we talk about this because I figure, like, along the way it has to become like the open secret.
Right.
Is like, girl, don't take your daughter up there. Like, I'm just saying, don't leave him alone in a room with her. No, ma'am. Like, he can help her, quote unquote, but you don't let her out of your sight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you
Yeah,
stay
because
in
he's
that room
saying
with her.
that these were all misunderstandings of what healing and surgery he was doing for them.
Uh-huh. So how does
Horrible.
one, and here's where I'm going to take a moment. If you went in,
Mm-hmm.
if this is where you do have to kind of have a moment there. If you went in and you were having psychic surgery, because of breast cancer, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, like you have been diagnosed with breast cancer, there is a part of me that could understand. And again, I don't want to say I endorse the practice. I don't want to say that I'm calling any of this right. I think all of it's probably inappropriate. I
Mm-hmm.
don't. Sorry, for me, it's just not a thing. Like, I can't lock on to this one. Um, but um, if that were the case, and it was, he's doing psychic surgery to remove your breast cancer, I could see that as a moment in which, in the course of that, you might touch the affected breast.
No.
Not in not in a sexual gratifyingly or inappropriate way. But I could follow it, and having that moment of, like, was this part of the psychic surgery or not? Was
Right.
this appropriate in that instance or not? I could see that. But if you're going in because go for something else, like, you have a bowel problem, some kind of other gastro kind of
Mm-hmm.
problem, like, ulcers. Like, go with ulcers. That's a nice one. Um, why are your hands anywhere near something sexual?
Right.
Like, why are your hands going left or right?
Right. So I'm going to now get onto my box.
Okay.
One, you don't touch your clients.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing Reiki, you're doing hands of light. Hell, if you're even doing faith healing, touch your shoulders. You don't touch anywhere else on them. First of all, that was my problem one with his practices. My problem two is his fee. Over $2,000 per visit.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So Brenda points out, my Reiki teacher spent time making sure we understood about not touching, space to leave, and letting your client know where your hands were. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and again, these are common practices in Reiki and energy healing in general. is that you do not
Right. Right.
like do not touch the client. No physical contact at all whatsoever, none.
Right.
Um,
You know, if I have a brick and mortar place that I am able to lay a table for them to lay down on, it's mainly for their comfort. It's easier to get to the chakras. And you put a blankie over them. You put a barrier between you. If I'm at a fair, and I've done this at a few fairs, and it is a service I offer for $5 normally, like $5, $10. It's minimal fee because that's a principle of Reiki. I'm what, Brenda? 3 foot away from you? 4 foot away from you, projecting? That is proper procedure.
mm-hmm. So, do we think this starts in a individual practice / abuse of common / best practices, and a lack of client understanding and knowledge of what's normal?
Right.
That as in you have a practitioner that's not following from the word go best practice. Yeah, so Brenda says you didn't have to touch me when you did mine. I could feel you from feet away. Feet, Feet, feet away. But no, so basically you have a practitioner that violates the general practices. Do not touch the client.
Right.
Whether you're talking about an arm or you're talking about a stomach or a back, don't touch the client.
Right. You have a practitioner here that had no training at all.
Okay.
He was born with it. Just because you're born with the skill does not mean that you are able to use it properly and you have ethical beliefs there.
Yeah.
Then he got a name behind him because he got an interview with Oprah and 60 Minutes and ABC because he had all these people trucking down, dropping $2,000 a treatment. And they do 2 and 3 treatments at a time.
Mm-hmm.
He saw more than 8 million clients in those 30 years. And he done showmanship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's not like you're going privately into a room, I assume. I assume it's onto a stage and, in front of the audience.
Most of them.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them.
Okay.
Okay.
So it would almost be interesting to see how many of the allegations came from public,
mm-hmm.
and how many were either private scheduled appointments / situations that turned into
Mm-hmm.
private appointments. As in, what's some of the pattern
Right.
that he has? Because quite frankly, I think it's more horrifying
Right.
to imagine that his victims, and it's very possible by the end of this they were, in front of an audience being sexually assaulted and abused.
Yeah.
On a stage. But so anyway, my question back to it though, is how much of this is someone acting as a practitioner
mm-hmm.
that's violating all normal standards,
Mm-hmm.
versus how much of this is client desperation and willingness to accept whatever in that desperate need or expectation of healing.
I will assume, and I will assume the worst first.
Okay.
And that is that this is even worse than that.
Okay. Because I mean, ultimately, and I say this as gently as I can, the problem with faith healing is it starts by exploiting a group of people who are already desperate,
Right.
which in turn is made worse
Right.
by then taking this vulnerable population of people
Mm-hmm.
and sexually assaulting and abusing them.
Correct. So we may even have victims that aren't alive. Yeah. We may have victims that aren't even alive
Mm-hmm.
that can't report this.
That in your failing health, you were sexually abused and assaulted
Mm-hmm.
and then died.
Right. You know, I normally have a list of things. I'm going to start adding in if they use God in their name.
Yeah, that's probably a good one.
Okay. The reason for that is we have Ash's God, that deplorable case in Idaho. Like, I really, really, really hope that in part of her sentencing, it includes that she is never to do another reading for the rest of her natural life.
Yeah.
And then we have this case that is horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Horrifying. And I will say this again to anyone doing anything metaphysical: do your study. I don't care if you can levitate the tarot in midair in front of your clients. You take a tarot course or 3.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a healer, you study all healing modalities.
Of which there are a multitude. So
Yeah.
Brenda says, I remember this guy from articles written about him back in the day. He acted like a carnival hustler.
Yes.
Uh, I think that's probably an accurate characterization of many who get into, and I want to be careful. I don't want to call it energy healing.
Right.
Okay. That's not where that's at. But this public faith healing.
Right.
Probably the key word. Like, and there's this expectation that you're
Right.
in public,
Right.
that would somehow, I would think, would make most people feel more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, I and again, I'm not trying to take any of the allegations lightly or make flippant comments here necessarily.
Right.
Um, but I would also question how much for some of the people that went to him it even mattered
Right.
in terms of, was this also a situation in which it's an open secret, that if if you're a pretty woman, he's going to touch you inappropriately as part of his faith healing practice. Like, you've seen it, it's an open
Mm-hmm.
secret, everyone knows this. And you're willing to trade that,
Right.
like, to not die.
Right.
Like, the level of fear
Right.
is so high about your health condition that you're willing to trade out the fact that you're also signing up,
Right.
and putting that in air quotes, to be touched inappropriately.
Right.
Um, which again adds a layer, like one more layer to it of just the ick.
And see, this is what gets me. I'm looking at multiple articles, including one from Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
They're not talking about the victims. They're not talking about the the pain this man has caused.
Mm-hmm. I mean, do we? here's the thing, though. Do we also have a moment where it, at least from trying to cover it from a news perspective,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel like there's also a moment in which, when we try to talk about this in a more mainstream news journalism kind of way, that we have trouble understanding and having sympathy for his victims because of the associated practice that they willingly engaged in? As in, we reject the psychic surgery and struggle to talk about him with any kind of professionalism for what he does, what he did as a broad category. Like, he is our inability to take energy healing seriously impacting our ability to talk in general media, to talk about his victims with any kind of sympathy.
Well, this was a quote from the Sydney article. I feel very sad because of everyone who will suffer a lot. First, the women who suffered the betrayal. And then all the people in the city who work so hard. They're going to lose their livelihood, Rock says. What? He is not a casualty of the Me Too movement. He is a monster of the Me Too movement.
Oh. Yeah, no. Sorry, wrong angle to talk about the story. I mean, it's not that there isn't an associated impact. Like, I'm sure Hollywood post Weinstein is having trouble identifying some talent for new programming.
Right.
That's the wrong place to put your focus.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to feel bad for Hollywood? What about all the victims? Like, excuse me, that's so far down the list. Like, that is, last consideration I have is, oh no, Hollywood's going to struggle.
Right.
To find new talent.
Apparently, 19,000 people in the town's income depended on tourism created by him. And then the other side of this, which pisses me off, is there's already someone clamoring for his customer list.
Meanwhile, but in that statement, do you almost feel like there should have been 19,001 defendants against these charges? Because I'm sorry, if you're gonna, if there are 19,000 people depending upon him for income, I think that's 19,000 people who had a very clear incentive to look the other way,
right?
Not say anything, not do anything, and even actively coerce these women into believing that this is normal, acceptable, appropriate, and that they're the ones with the problem.
Right.
That's you cannot tell me that in his victims, no one else ever tried to come forward until 2018, I think is what it was. Wasn't it? Yeah. 2018. That along the way there was not people trying to call him out that were trying to talk to one of those 19,000 people who are codependent
Right.
on him for their income, for their livelihood. They didn't have a real good damn reason
Right.
to actively persuade people, oh, that's not what happened. You misunderstood. You don't really know what you're talking about.
Right.
Like that's how that would read to me.
Right.
Is that like, and here's his co-conspirators.
Right. The police would say that they would investigate and dismiss for lack of proof.
Mm-hmm. I that's
There
ridiculous.
should be 19,000 charges.
Well, and the additional, the additional from Brenda here is sexual assaults are high in Brazil, maybe why he got away with it that long. So also what we're speaking to there would be that Brazil has a rape culture, a sexual assault and abuse supporting culture, much like the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I wanted to get into the desperation and for some victims, not all, and
Right.
especially not those who came forward, the trade-off is because that became part of the Weinstein case.
Right.
Is that like the number of people in general society who are like, oh, boo hoo, she, got fondled. She also made a few $1,000,000.
Right.
Like, she traded.
Right.
Like, how, and a lot of the accusation there was that, these women knew what they were getting into. They knew who they were, like they did this willingly, blah, 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 is
Right.
where we went with Weinstein. Which still, ew, ick,
Yeah.
yuck.
Okay. You must be your messenger.
Yeah,
Um.
I'm checking now.
Okay. But I'm just floored. I'm floored. I am tired of this. We need ethical standards and practices in all areas of metaphysics. And I will say this point blankly: if you're psychic, if you're a psychic healer, whatever tells you to stop taking your medicines, stop going to your treatments, fire them.
Yeah. Okay, so from Brenda and BrazilReports.com, in Brazil, 8 people are raped every hour, based on a study. In 2022, the country recorded its highest number of reported rape cases in its history, 74,930, an 8.2% increase from 2021. Like those are the big numbers.
Right.
Like that's granted, entire country. That's a lot. Um,
All right. We need to move on from this before I get evil.
mm-hmm.
So the Supreme Court won't halt Texas's age verification.
Oh, we went to that one. Okay. So, yeah, the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court declined on Tuesday to block a Texas law requiring online age verification in order to access pornographic websites in a case pitting the Republican led state's effort to keep adult content away from minors against constitutional free speech protections. With no publicly noted dissents, the justices denied a request by a trade group representing adult entertainment performers and other challengers to the law to put a hold on a lower court's ruling that the measure likely didn't not violate the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment safeguards against government interference with freedom of speech. The 2023 law requires any websites whose content is more than a third sexual material harmful to minors to require all users, including adults, to submit personally identifying information verifying they are at least 18 years old to gain access. Several other states have enacted similar laws. The Texas law's challengers, represented by the ACLU and others, have said that it poses security and privacy concerns by exposing users to possible identity theft, tracking, and extortion. They also said that its effectiveness is undermined given that it would not restrict social media, or search engines where pornography is rampant. In any event, the challengers added content filtering software works better to protect minors than laws like this. The plaintiffs contend that the case is straightforward given the Supreme Court's own precedents that treat non obscene sexual content as constitutionally protected. These precedents allow governments to limit access by minors to sexual material, but under the First Amendment, they may not burden access by adults to such content. Texas said its law is necessary because smartphones have made it much easier for children to instantly access virtually unlimited hardcore pornography. The law, Texas said in a filing, simply requires the pornography industry that makes billions of dollars, from peddling smut to take commercially reasonable steps to ensure that those who access the material are adults. The plaintiffs include the Free Speech Coalition, a trade association of adult content performers, producers, and distributors, as well as companies that run several pornographic websites, including Pornhub.com and XNXX.com. So, yeah, I'm going to stop there because I think we got enough to talk about it, because the rest is just kind of more detail.
Right. And, this is quite easy to implement. They do it on our sites all the time. You have to have a credit card to register the account.
Well, but here's the thing, though.
Okay.
This has been the problem, is that this isn't about taking credit card payments to prove you're an adult.
Right.
This is about actual age verification. Show me your ID. Right. The brilliant thought, horrible repercussion of, okay, well, to prevent minors from accessing this content, we're going to require a credit card.
Right.
The whole reason that failed was that we hit the 90s and cards, debit cards acting as credit cards, became ubiquitous. Mm-hmm. It no longer meant you were an adult to have a credit card, which it would have mostly like 98th percentile,
right?
Previously, and there were already people working around that by stealing credit card information, and making it publicly available. So fundamentally, all we did was say that, it was okay to take a nominal fee, which steadily increased over time and became unending online subscriptions, because good luck canceling that one, is what that ultimately became. And pay for porn was born.
Right.
I'm wondering how quickly age verification is going to start failing.
It'll be interesting to see what it happens with. I don't like the law. I want to make that clear. I think it's a pain in the ass to enforce, but these are the laws we see. These are the laws we deal with all the time. This is why every psychic reading, I don't care if I talked to you 5 minutes ago, and your birthday it is.
Yeah.
Okay. And this has applied to us since the Miss Cleo days.
Well, and I will say it's probably a little bit easier when you're talking about, calling or talking even by chat, with a psychic reader,
Mm-hmm.
to quickly, like, even the worst of the worst, like, you like, they're not a reader, they're just garbage. Like, they're paid chat bot, basically,
Right.
can quickly figure out the conversation you're having is
Mm-hmm.
not with an adult.
It can be touchy. It can be touchy. It can be
I mean,
very questioning.
I can
Um,
understand there's that, like, window
mhm.
around 18 that it's got to get questionable at times. Like, am I talking
Right.
to an 18-year-old or a 17-year-old? Like,
Right.
this is borderline. But it quickly gets easier to figure out someone's, like, 40 some years old. Like,
Right.
the conversation you're having is, not with a 40-year-old.
Right.
Like, someone stole mommy's credit card and birthday is what happened.
Mm-hmm. But in general, I don't like the law. I think it's written too loosely. I think it gives rampant availability for abuse. They are not required to have the um, data protection that psychic sites are required to have. So that's problematical for me, in my opinion. Um, and I think that we're reaching a point to where we are going to have online IDs, which removes the anonymity of online in some form or another. Like if it's a code that verifies your system or whatever, then let it be that. Because Lord knows I've got authenticators all over my phone. But I think it's getting to that point. The other side of that point is, and this is where they had trouble proving, and I think they've been having trouble proving, and this is the examples that they're giving, is we'll just put in a thing that verifies it, that they're 18. Because, yes, when you enter a credit card, it does pull your age.
I didn't think it actually did.
Yes, it does.
Okay, when did we start doing including that?
Back in the mid, like 97, 98, it pulls your name, your mailing address, um, and your age. Like that's why it's used for age verification.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and it'll pull the value on the card. Um, the thing that will be technically problematical is that, like the Visa gift cards, they won't be able to accept them.
Um, very interesting. So yeah, but it does remove the ability to consume content anonymously.
It does.
I'm also wondering if this isn't just going to end up being feel-good legislation that does nothing. Like, as in, it's going to add another stumbling block.
Right.
But I'm wondering how quickly does it actually become a problem?
Right.
For content producers,
Mm-hmm.
and not as much of a safeguard fence
Right.
that the legislation intends.
Well, and then you run into the problems. The problems are mommy and daddy's credit card. It'll verify that age.
Mm-hmm.
Your older friend's credit card. It will verify that age.
Mm-hmm.
Where it matters in a psychic reading, it may not matter in a um, on a porn site.
Right. Well, and that was kind of my point, is in a psychic reading, you're actually directly person to person making a connection.
Right.
Like, you are one-to-one interacting.
Right.
Versus this is a 24/7 content site,
Mm-hmm.
pre-produced content. It's not live engagement for
Right.
a fair number. I mean, this, when we're talking about sites like Pornhub or XNXX, this is a pay-to-view site.
Right.
Pay-to-view static content. You don't talk to a human.
Right.
You're not interacting with other. You're not directly interacting with other people.
Right.
You're just paying. It's a toll.
Right.
Like, go through the toll booth, do the thing, pay to access the content.
Right.
Or not pay to access the content,
Right.
depending upon the site. So ultimately, this is going to, at least, I would think, end up in a situation, because I can hardly imagine. That there's going to be a high success rate of sites
Right.
that are going to challenge you on every video request or every visit to the site to prove your age.
Right.
So I think this is going to end up being a one-time event.
Right.
That you associate with a user account, you provide the age verification requested, and then that becomes attached to that username and ID, username and password, excuse me. So at that point, do we basically just see the proliferation of sharing your porn account like you would have, like we kind of still do, socially speaking, share Netflix and Hulu and other streaming services, and it just becomes one 18-year-old in a high school, first kid who turns 18, $5, I'll share my password.
Right. Well, and see, here's the other thing, and this is the problem that we have in the U.S. We do not have the GDPR. We do not have the PECR that gives us ownership of our data. Okay, and here's what I mean by the difference. For European, Australian, all those clients in those companies, those places, they have a right to see all the data I have on the client. They have a right to remove all data from the website. They have the right, like if I make a note, client talks very softly, turn up phone. In my database, my client can see that. In those countries, they have a right to see that information. This, but the US, we do not have that right. So if you are in Texas, if you go to register for a site, your data stays there forever. If you have a data breach, you're at liberation. But if we would get the ownership of our data the same as Europe, you could register for a site, do your viewing, delete the site data that can't be resold, because I promise you, if they get data, they're going to sell it. It's worth a value.
So this also harkens back to like Ashley Madison, and the issues that were had there, and the number of people who claimed, because there were some celebrity names, Josh Duggar, that popped up in that, just from the credit card billing.
Right.
And at least gave a somewhat plausible deniability.
Right.
That, someone stole my credit card. This is going to go further.
Yeah.
It's not just someone stole my credit card. They apparently also stole my face and a legal valid form of identification. It's a little harder to argue.
Right.
At that point. That, someone stole my credit card. Like, no, this is you.
Yeah.
This is you. It also makes me question whether and bringing up like GDPR and other ability to control your data and how it's used,
Right.
the number of adult content sites likely to turn around and now be sitting on a gold mine of very profitable data.
Yeah.
That, before, like pre this, it was one thing to say, well, we've seen like Senator, whomever, use a similar name or the same email address. And it's could be a very circumstantial thing.
Right.
Now this is the senator's driver's license, a photo of the senator, and their credit card.
Right.
Oh, also here's their viewing history. Like, they're voting against gay legislation? That's interesting. That's interesting because all they seem to be watching
is
very homoerotic content.
Right. That's going to be interesting. I mean, we saw Grindr flat out say, we'll release your accounts. Like, we have no problem releasing your data because we own your data according to our user agreement. I don't remember the bill, but no, Grindr said we'll release it. Yeah. We'll hand it all over to the media.
And now it's going to be less deniable.
Yes.
So yeah, it kind of because with Grindr, it was a profile picture. Argumentatively, you could again say someone scraped my account. It wasn't really me. Pick your poison there and try to, claim, oh, I wasn't at the Republican National Convention and looking for escorts, male escorts. No, never. I've never done such a thing. Someone's out to get me. But then it also makes me question, because this is unfortunately happening at an equally problematic time for the idea of verification.
Right.
Which is the unfortunate advent of AI-based technology.
Right.
That's capable of not only generating photos, but generating full video.
Right.
So even if you have a live verification, that requires you to say get on a webcam, that now Pornhub has to pay someone, room full of someone's, to sit there and for 5 seconds see you, look at your scan of your driver's license and go, yep, that's you.
Right.
How long till someone creates a service that does that?
Right. Well, it's
$5 with a fake name and a fake generated ID. Does the verification, does a reasonable facsimile of a live video and answers a question.
Right.
How long? Because we're now there.
Right. Well, there's now there's a service that I've looked at that's called Genie, and it'll make video for whatever. It can make that video.
I also wonder where the ramifications of the law are going to end up going, or laws, because we know this is going to be a multitude onslaught of laws if this is possible. Is it really just going to be the death of online porn? Ultimately, because if the violations and fines and repercussions of this get too high,
right,
porn dies. Porn on the internet will die. If it gets to a point that, like, oh, you have 14 minors viewing porn on your website, well, that's $14 million in fines.
Right. Well, see, I don't think it goes that way.
Okay.
I think that it goes the other way, and that is the more, and we've seen this centuries past, amateur hour.
Well, granted, we're technically, in terms of porn, already there. OnlyFans and other sites, which I don't think it will have any problems doing adult
Right.
verification. They're already doing it for their models.
Right.
Like, and that's been one of the problems previously stated. Like XNXX,
Right.
not so bad, but or because that's
Right.
typically a distribution channel for production porn,
Right.
i.e., there's a studio attached. They've released a video. They have placed it here.
Right.
I believe. No, not XNXX. Excuse me. That's AEBN.
Right.
My apologies. But anyway, so XNXX and Pornhub, one of the claims, and they've been through this, is that they were already releasing porn
Right.
without, because it was amateur hour,
Right.
in which people were not aware
Mm-hmm.
that they were recorded, were not consenting of being recorded and shared, and may not have been themselves of age
Mm-hmm.
to consent and be shared.
Right.
In addition to the fact that there was a proliferation across these platforms of commercially made pornography
Mm-hmm.
being uploaded by not the studio,
Right.
and even being sold.
Right.
So, so they weren't even, they've only recently started to try to age verify models.
Right.
The models in, we use this in quotes, the actors in porn,
Right.
and trying to age verify those who are participating, and even that, they're I sincerely question whether or not that is even thwarting the problem, or if it's just a stumbling block.
Right.
That we're verifying the account holder, we're not verifying the actors in each discrete pornographic content that's uploaded.
Right.
So that's where we already are.
Well, see, here's the thing, and here's what I'm worried about is instead of seeing platforms, we're going to see independent companies that it's like, well, if you want to go see this, all you have to do is go over to, john.com and you can see it there, and you're following john.com on Twitter and he's pushing out content. And if you want longer than, I don't know, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, you have to message him and he PayPal's you a link.
I don't know if we don't just see the widespread social media proliferation of pornography.
Right.
That because it's on social media, it's less than a third of the site's content, because,
Right.
thank God people post recipes and mommy vlogs to social media.
Right.
So no age verification required. By the way, here's my Patreon link. Here's my whatever link.
Right.
To send me money.
Yeah.
And basically interspliced with your rampant abuse of social media for porn is going to be support the starving porn actor.
Right.
Money bag.
Right.
Like Q Sarah McLachlan.
Right.
With nudity and in the arms of the angel.
Because yes, I believe Patreon you have to verify. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, no, they'd have to. They could easily verify.
Yeah. Because you don't even need Patreon to host the content.
They do, though.
They do, but you don't need them to.
Right.
As in, this is just, support your local starving porn star.
Right.
We have a Patreon.
Right.
That like, as in, that's it.
Yeah.
So at that point, you would have also separated the ability to collect payment from the need to verify that users,
right,
or consumers of content, are of age, because it's on social media.
Right.
I can't see, especially in the Elon Musk Twitter, a crackdown on pornography occurring. I don't see it, especially if they can find a way to charge. Oh, you're hosting hours of video. Well, now you're a content producer, so
right,
we're going to charge you a few bucks a month for storage.
Right.
For higher bandwidth and whatever. Basically, high, even if basically you break it up. Is it sort of like saying Pornhub's a monopoly?
Right.
Because it's a payment gateway, it's a video hosting platform, and it's entirely pornographic content, so it needs age verification. So if we break up the hosting platform from the payment processing, oh look, away went the verification requirement.
Right.
Because that platform doesn't require it. I think, if anything, these laws are poised to be the death of like Pornhub.com.
Right.
And the explosion. The explosion of social media.
Right.
Based pornographic content.
Right.
Like in Twitter being front and center.
Right.
Because kind of already is. And I wonder how quick Facebook will want to jump on that bandwagon. That despite being very anti-pornographic content currently,
right.
How fast will the platform change?
Right. And selling that blue check mark for $9 a month, or the your age is already verified with Facebook. Boom, there you go. I can see it going that way. All right, guys, let's hit a break, shall we?
Okay.
Are you ready for an enchanting journey of self-discovery and empowerment? Dive into the mystical world of Wicca with our courses guided by Lord Aeson Knight. Unveil Wicca's secrets, explore fundamental principles, and delve into essential topics like deity relationships and the purpose of rituals. Aeson Knight, a third-degree high priest, shares his wisdom through life coaching lessons, guiding you towards a brighter future. Step into the inner circle of enlightenment. Enroll today to embark on a journey toward a more empowered you. Click the link to take your first step into the magical circle.
Ready to join the Psychic Coffee Shop Network? By becoming our patron, you'll unlock exclusive content from Aeson Knight, host of the Psychic Coffee Shop podcast and co-host of the Mountain Bears podcast, alongside the tech-savvy Techie Joe. Choose from subscription options ranging from Tall $1, Grande $5, to Venti $10 per month, supporting us in covering production costs and beyond. Depending on your subscription level, enjoy discounts on private readings, free access to classes and special events, behind-the-scenes extras, and the chance to participate in station meetings. Plus, you'll get early access to new content and the opportunity to shape future topics. We'll acknowledge your support in the credits of our videos. Don't wait. Brew some magic and join us today as a valued member. Link in the show description. Aeson Knight, your gateway to a transformed life. In a world where anyone can claim to be a life coach, Aeson stands out as a true professional with the skills and qualifications to guide you on your journey to success. So why invest in a personal life coach? Let's explore the game-changing benefits Aeson brings to the table. Ever find it hard to stay committed to change on your own? Aeson's expertise ensures you stay on track. With him as your coach, that internal drive kicks in, motivating you to keep your promises and achieve your goals. Making a change is tough, but Aeson makes it 1,000 times easier. He's your unwavering support, guiding you through challenges, pushing you beyond your limits, and believing in you even when you doubt yourself. Friends are great, but they may not always want to see you succeed. Aeson, on the other hand, is dedicated solely to your success. He removes negativity and limiting beliefs, giving you the tailored support you need. Forget endless hours deciphering advice from books and videos. Aeson is your shortcut to effective change. He saves you time and money by offering personalized attention, guiding you toward the tools and lessons that will truly work for you. Ready for a better tomorrow? Book your discovery call with Aeson Knight now. Take the first step toward the life you've always dreamed of. Aeson Knight, your partner in transformation. Start your journey today.
All right, welcome back. And as we move on to our favorite segment, Are You an Asshole?
All right. Am I the asshole for not picking a new color for my house, even though my son finds the one we have embarrassing? I bought my house 15 years ago. It was a fixer-upper and needed a lot of work. The only thing I kept of the house is it's painted bright pink. The guy I bought it from said it was his deceased father's house. He had painted it this way to piss off his neighbors. I decided I liked the color and kept it the way it was. When I married my wife a year later, she agreed. We now have 3 kids, a 13-year-old boy, a 10-year-old girl, and an 8-year-old girl. We are doing some minor renovations to the house and have decided to touch up the paint as it's been a while. My son asked that we paint it a, quote, normal color because it's embarrassing to live in a pink house. We declined and said we like the color. Ultimately, it's our house and we'll be living in it longer than him. When we die, he's free to paint it what he wants. My mother-in-law feels we're being unfair and that we should take into account how it's embarrassing for a teen boy to live in a Barbie house. We asked my son if he's being teased and he said no, but he hates it. Our daughters like it. Are we wrong for not painting the house a normal color?
No.
I read this one and I'm like, part of me can understand having a house, like living in a house that you hate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reasons that someone would hate a house are wide.
Mm-hmm.
From it's the wrong color to it's whatever.
Right.
Not every house is going to be lovable by everyone.
Right.
We all have different tastes and preferences. That said, I struggle with the idea that pink isn't a normal color for a house.
Right.
I think it's a very normal color for a house. I think all colors are normal for a house.
Mm-hmm.
I think in some neighborhoods it's probably not preferred.
Right.
It stands out like a sore thumb. And I'm sure there are certain shades of any color that are like, oh God, that's a garish shade. Because there are colors that just woof, hard to look at.
Right.
But at the same time, not his house.
No.
But then it brings into the bigger question,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's should the inhabitants of a house
Mm-hmm.
have that kind of say about the house. Like, obviously, like repainting the house is not a financial problem.
Right.
Like, they're already going to do it anyway.
Well, they said they're touching it up.
Well, I figure after 15 years, it's a little more than a touch-up. I figure that's pretty much you're repainting the house.
Okay. Well, you're not going to like my viewpoint. Are they paying? Is the boy paying the mortgage?
No.
Okay. Is this his forever home? He's going to live with his parents for 100 years. No. Okay.
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 All right.
And then we move on to the other issues here. One, I'm sure the neighbors haven't changed.
Oh, I don't know. I think a pink house probably got rid of some people.
And doubtful.
Like, if they couldn't stop you from doing it, there are issues of people moving because their neighbors, like, they find their neighbor's house that objectionable. They just can't stand looking at it.
Find me the color. We will see about painting the siding as soon as possible. Because I'm sorry, I love this new it's that black house with those deep forest green shutters. The house, there's a house uptown that has this color, and the door is this very deep, rich purple. I would do the house in a minute that way.
Oh, I don't know. Like, I think the right answer is you're not the asshole.
Right.
But I also, like, I still kind of feel bad at the idea of people having to live in a house that they just can't stand.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you're the asshole for not wanting to change the color of it. I don't think, there's a, like, because, I mean, Brenda says, does the son want to buy the paint equipment and do the painting? You've said, does he pay the mortgage? I mean, that's unreasonable for a 13-year-old. I don't think that needs to necessarily be true. I think I'm more struggling with you have the opportunity to make this a home for everyone. That everyone's comfortable in. Your son is expressing this one part of the house that he just hates. Like, you know what I mean? And did so what it sounds like is pretty, straightforward. I hate the color.
Right.
You have the ability to do it. Like, this becomes one of those moments. I don't think you're the asshole for not doing it, but I really have to go, like, but you could.
Yeah. He could paint it rainbow.
You could paint it rainbow. You could paint it black. You could paint it blue. You could paint it white. You could paint it any color in the rainbow. Granted, hoping that between you, your wife, and your 3 kids, you can pick one color.
Right.
One color. Just one color. Or perhaps change shades. That, like, maybe he's not totally against pink. Just that color is to it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because pink is a wide range of colors.
Right.
Like, there's 16 million colors, and if you're using the base words like, red, green, blue, pink to describe something, it doesn't communicate a lot.
Right.
Like, there's tons of shades in between, and so, like, one person may hear that as, like, bright, vibrant, Barbie pink. And another person goes, well, it's a pink house. You're talking like, a barely pink you know, very light, subdued pink.
Right.
You know, this very dusty, like it's white but with a little red in it.
Right.
You know, that's a wide range.
Right. But the other part of this, now, if all the children and the wife had a problem with the paint,
Okay.
I'd be like, you got to paint the house. You've been outvoted by the island.
Okay, but if the 3 kids, not the wife or the husband,
Right.
3 kids are sitting there going, we hate this pink house.
Right.
But the wife and husband are like, we like it.
Again,
Where are you there?
I'm like, okay, we paint the house. But it's kind of like when we were painting this house.
Okay.
I have very Victorian decorating taste.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wanted to do the living room in a deep red with a black sponge over it.
Mm-hmm.
You two were like, no.
So we're gonna go with majority rules. But okay, but go ahead.
But, you know, that's another way to handle this. And the boy still outvoted.
Yeah, he would still be outvoted because so far it's the. But I also feel like we tried to compromise on that. Do you agree? Like painting the house, that yes, we were totally against what you said.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think we came to a 3-way consensus?
We did. We
Okay.
We came to a 3-way consensus on it. And, you know, I got pimped the idea that, well, you know, if you do it in a neutral gray, which this isn't a neutral gray, this is more of a it's
grays
blue
are
spring blue. That you could have the accents there, and we do. We have the accents.
Well, we did the bedrooms slash rooms on a floor plan that would be labeled bedrooms, and the bathroom in the gray, and the bathroom was where I was like, well, and the bedrooms as well, is that it's a neutral tone.
Right.
You can go in that room and do any color you want, and it's gonna look good.
Right.
You can do the whole rainbow of accessories in that room. It's gonna look good.
Right.
It's not like it falls in the category of like your tans and your whites. Grays are right there. It's a neutral. It'll take on whatever personality you want to give it.
Right.
Now the living room, obviously behind you, is blue. And again, I felt like we didn't do what you wanted to do.
Right.
Because 2 of us were like, "Ooh, please no." Like Victorian horror house is not rocking our world over here, okay? Because and I'm sure we could do it and it not look like that mental image, but when you said it, like what flashed through my head can best be described as Victorian horror house. You know, best little horror house in London.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm sure we could have done it in a way that did not come out that way, but I think that's what flashed for both of us. And a lot of that has to do with when we talk about color.
Right.
Typically, we are, as a society, limited to like the little baby Crayola pack. Not the smallest one, not that one you get at like, restaurants where you can color on the tablecloth.
Right.
But like that, what is it, a 10, 12 pack, something like that? The little, like, you got your primary and basic color.
Right.
It's got black, it's got white, it's got red, blue, green, yellow, purple, like the basics. Is generally where we talk about color. Despite there being so many shades.
Right.
And I'm wondering if maybe part of that is the problem here, is that we're not talking about a nice cottagey terracotta pink. You know, a little dusty, kind of, you know what I mean? Like that seaside pink.
Right.
When you think of like a wooden house on the seaside that's pink, this
Right.
cottagey pink. And instead we're talking about like, oh my God, it's pink.
Right.
That oh God. And in the sea of like tans and burgundies and blues and navies, and you know what I mean? That in the suburban sea,
Right.
it is the Barbie house.
Right.
Like you just can't drive down that street without being like, gut punch pink.
Right.
Like it's just startling pink.
Right.
And I still don't think you're the asshole. I do think you have an opportunity to make everyone comfortable.
Right.
And maybe this isn't the hill to die on.
Yeah, because this was what I wanted to do.
Yeah. That's kind of an inversion of the colors as I saw them in my head, which is probably an improvement. I was seeing a black wall with red over it.
Right.
But I could start to get behind it.
Yeah, but you know, that's not the direction we as a group went.
That's not the direction we went, but that's not a forever direction that we're in.
Right. You know.
Yeah, Brenda's like, that's definitely a vampire wall, Aeson.
Right.
But yeah, no, so Brenda says it could also be worse, Joe. Neighbor growing up was red, gold, and black flocked wallpaper in hall living room. Oh, I've seen some wallpaper.
Right, because, you know, I always like, and, you know, we were still working on the foot pattern for this house because we don't use this house the way it was built. Honey, I can't comment on that question.
Okay. Understandable. Tanya, we're sorry. That's not an on-air at all kind of request. All right. So, but no, I've seen some wallpaper. I have trouble though because there's a classification of a thing called wallpaper because it technically is,
Right.
but it isn't.
Right.
And that's like the paintable wall texture that hangs up like wallpaper, and it is wallpaper, and some of it you can use as is.
Right.
But its ultimate intent is to be painted over.
Right.
And a side note, I highly suggest anyone who does that paint over it.
Right.
Don't just put it on the wall and be like, it's finished. No, you gotta paint that.
Right.
Because it ends up absorbing a lot and it's impossible virtually to clean.
Right.
So unless you're going to replace it a lot, paint over it. Save yourself the time.
Right. But as I was getting into, is I tend to like a statement wall in a room. It anchors the room. And then color the rest of, paint the rest of the walls.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing though. What are the colors in your Second Life home?
I don't know. Like, you do that.
No, base colors. Grab your 12-pack. What? Or 16. I think it's 16, actually. The 16-pack of Crayola. Describe the walls in your Second Life home.
Well, we have the mirror on my morning room, and I believe the walls there are white or grayish. Sorry, I don't pay attention to the walls. I'm barely there half the time.
You know I have photos. I don't know why you're trying to act like I'm not going to.
I'm not acting like it. I hope you bring the photos up because we'll talk about them.
Okay, let me get that open. So yeah. I really I color chipped it. I did all the things.
Yeah.
And the break room, it's been posted there. So if you're a Patreon, you've already seen this. You know how wrong he was. But I've got to scroll some. Because I haven't taken photos recently. Come on. Okay, it's somewhere in between those two. Because it did start out as a base build from the builder,
Right.
our Second Life home vendor, with white walls. You're not wrong.
Right.
It originally had white walls. I put together a whole color palette, and then painted the house.
Right.
Is that? No. I feel like I'm missing photos in between. Maybe it's because they've ended up in the wrong place. Because I was having a problem there for a little bit.
Right.
No, that's really old. Huh. Oh, I'm getting shown out. Like, I can't bring the receipts. I'm trying to bring the receipts, man. Where's my receipts? Like, I'm getting mad. Because I have all the pictures of Dark Heart. I have all the pictures when we first set the house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's interesting. How did I do that? They've got to be here. Like, I know I've taken photos in the house. Like, I have all the photos of the store.
Right, which I like the store. It's much more mutable.
Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. Let's see. Okay, so let me... there we go. That's a nice wide angle. Is that... Share screen. That way I don't have to worry that I scroll through something that would be client-based.
Right. Yeah. Very nice walls.
What colors are they, honey?
Where's my morning room? That's the red. That's a nice red. That's a decent blue. I like the black wall. The grays are okay. You know,
That's
the outside of the house
He
is
literally
brown.
lives in the black house of his dreams in Second Life.
In Second Life, yeah.
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 But no, let me see if I can find the morning room. Because I don't want to have to scroll you guys through everything. Because that gets annoying.
Right. But no, like these are rich colors. They're not pattern colors. There's not a lot of statement walls, but they're rich colors.
True. But like you got your color palette.
Right.
Oh, she says the entrance should be purple.
Ooh, I like that.
I tried. Let me say that doesn't work. Like originally I was going to work a purple palette.
Right.
And try to make him super happy and give him a purple house because I knew it would make him happy, but it was no, not happening. Right. Like purple doesn't work. It doesn't work on this house. It looks hideous. Right. I will say, like I tried. Okay, I can't find a photo of the morning room. But anyway, he did get some of the colors that he wanted. He got his red and black. I can't believe he's never noticed.
Honey.
Yeah.
Love you dearly.
Uh-huh.
But I haven't had much time when we took over managing places.
Yes.
To be home. Like I'm either at the office, I'm at a party, I'm hosting a party, I'm at the coffee shop, I'm doing something to that level.
I know. like I'm not trying to be mean or hateful about it. I was just pointing out, like, I did that.
Right.
Like I didn't do the wallpaper. Granted, I could have.
Mm-hmm.
I had not made connection with the black over, but yeah, I'm sure we could figure out a wall. I know one in particular I can do, and that's fine.
Right.
Plus, I think, and I'm going to pull that down. Descriptively, when you've said you wanted to do the red and black,
Mm-hmm.
I think our understanding was that you wanted to do the whole room in the pattern.
Right.
So, and I think that would be much. That would be overwhelming. Statement wall.
Mm-hmm.
I can get behind statement wall.
Right, but our rooms have grossly changed when we originally.
Oh yeah. When we originally did the painting of the house, like, oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're in the bedroom.
Became my office.
Yeah, I'm in the entryway. Became my office, and then I still have the back office. So there's that.
Yeah, we've done a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like, we've evolved the house to kind of fit what we're doing.
Right.
I think a lot of people would have probably been like, buy new house. That's the solution. We were like, no. We can reconfigure.
Right.
Like, we're too tired for a U-Haul, okay?
Well, we're too tired for a U-Haul. We're too tired for... Oh, let this be pictures. It isn't. Just show me a picture of the house, and I'll stop it there. Sorry, the house that inspired me, and that is not. But anyway, they're like one of the YouTubers I found just redone her whole house. She has a house within the same era as we do, and she done the black house completely. Now, granted, I do want a purple door, like when we replaced the front door, which I want to replace with a window door that has the built-in blind. Like, I know the door I want to put on. I want to do the purple door.
Yeah. Well, and ostensibly, I should also point out, when we were talking about doing the color, you had also mentioned that as a possibility, selling it within the next few years.
Right.
So I was kind of also moderating color palette.
Right.
For like what would also potentially sell, go on the market with the fewest revisions.
Right.
Like, I don't want to paint, like, because I can't paint. I'm allergic to latex. I can't help you.
Right.
I couldn't help you when you painted the house.
Right.
So also, if we're looking at maybe in the next few years at the time,
right,
selling, what's going to require the least work to change to market? Because there's always going to, so it's like, okay, if we go some more neutrals in the bedrooms, I don't think a realtor is going to come through and be like, nope, repaint. And if we keep it in like some fairly calm shades, the kitchen and the living room should be okay. They might go like balk at the kitchen.
Right.
Like, I didn't think they'd balk at the living room, but potentially the kitchen. I thought, it's going to be the one they're going to be like, no. And then it went on the wall. And it did things that I did not anticipate.
Right.
Like, the much more vibrantly did it go on the wall than I thought it would be. Like the shades went a totally different direction.
Right. You know, and I'm like, I live in a YouTube house.
Yeah, he immediately, once the color dried and everything, was like, it's a YouTube studio.
Yeah.
The kitchen is green screen green. The living room is blue screen blue. And the rest of it, side note, the color names for the grays, because there's two of them, are online and web page.
Right.
So Mermaid's Tail, which is what's you can see a little bit of behind him to the left there, that blue screen blue would have been a better name for it. And the tail pot palm that I chose, which looked gorgeous, ended up green screen green.
Right.
Like, that's how it hit the walls. That's what it did. I went, oh my God. This was not what I meant to do.
Yeah. But, you know, so we will probably next year have to redo the walls. And
I get a vacation. That's what I heard.
Huh?
I get a vacation. That's what I heard.
I know. Possibly. I'm also looking at wallpaper. I'm looking at us both, all three, getting a vacation to an Airbnb and having a painter come in. Like, there's a couple different options.
Either which way, I get a vacation.
You know, because it's there. When you own a house, it's almost every 5 years you got to paint. 5 to 10 years, the paint doesn't hold up like it used to.
Yeah. Life's hard on paint.
It is. It is. All right. So moving along.
All right. We got our poll up, been up.
Yep. Been up.
Awesome. All right. So relationships. Advice. Should I risk my amazing relationship with my partner to not limit my career and potentially find someone better? How rare is it to find a great connection with someone? Hi, I, 24 female, am looking for some advice. Around a year and a half ago, I started dating my boyfriend, 25 male, whom I have an amazing relationship with and who treats me amazing. We pretty much live together and love spending time together doing similar hobbies, cooking together, grocery shopping together, and just relaxing together. We have very similar life plans and are looking at taking things more seriously soon, buying a house, marriage, etc. Our only slight hurdle is that his career is limited to a certain location that he needs to stay in, a business in a particular location that cannot be moved, and my family lives a bit away. I had always planned before I met him after I finished my education to move back near my family. Being with him would also mean limiting my career options to that particular region. I will still be able to find jobs in this region, just will not be flexible enough to move for promotions, certain positions, etc. He is an incredibly supportive partner, but I have family members who have given me doubts since they want me to put growing my career first and have insinuated breaking up with him to do this. All my friends see our relationship and support me moving with him to this location, but my family sees it differently and thinks I could potentially do better and find someone either back home or able to relocate with me. Both my parents work very demanding jobs and are very career driven. While I am career driven, I also want a family in the future and do not want to work 60 to 80-hour weeks once I have kids for an increased salary. I never had doubts about our relationship, but now I worry that I could find someone better for me who is not restricted to a particular location and could be near my family for weekends, but also would hate to leave him since I love him very much. Me leaving him would absolutely destroy him, and I do not know if I could do that. And lastly, I do not know if I could find somebody who loves me as much as he does and is as compatible with my personality. I'm just curious, for people who have more dating experience than me, how rare is it to find someone this compatible with you and whom you share an amazing connection with? Is it something worth risking?
Yes. Because you're looking at now.
Okay.
This moment. You're not looking 20, 30 years later, you've not had those conversations with him in the current circumstances. You're looking at a career that may not be the same career in 5 years.
So you're saying it is worth risking, or it is not?
It is not worth risking.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify. I was a little confused.
Yeah.
There.
Like, no need to be breaking up with him. This is kind of something, looking at her place in life.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been in nursing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been locked into a location. I'm not locked into a location right now. Technically, you're not locked into a location right now. But we had the conversation about, if LA calls, I'm off to LA.
Uh-huh. But we also had a different conversation.
Right.
And I think that's where I want to go here.
Okay.
There's a lot of assumptions being made.
Right.
And most of them boil down in this posting to all or nothing.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of black and white thinking here. It's either everything I want or walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to your 20s. It's easier to think like that. Or
right.
More importantly, just wait till you hit your 30s. You start realizing not everything's so black and white.
Right.
And I think you kind of don't give him the benefit of the doubt that if he is so amazing,
mm-hmm.
that he can flex.
Right.
As can you. I think you grew up with very career-oriented, all or nothing, black and white thinking parents.
Right.
I think that most likely they instilled in you very early that the only thing that really mattered was working and making money.
Right.
And they probably did that to your detriment.
Right.
As in, you were a very financially stable household, but work always comes first.
Right.
Like, didn't care it was your graduation, didn't care.
Right.
And I think you learned an appreciation for that you don't quite have anymore.
Mm-hmm.
As in, you're straddling the fence on it.
No.
As in, you understand it, you lived it, you dealt with it, you put in priority on it like your parents did. But I think for you, that's not exactly where you're at. You're willing to trade some professional success for happy family and home.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like your parents do. It's do or die.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that they're so heavily influencing you right now is like, if you didn't tell me your age, I would know how old you are.
Yeah.
Because you're 6 years out of being under their roof.
Mm-hmm.
You're still figuring out exactly who you are as an adult. And I think you're getting pulled back into who they think you ought to be as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Because if this is the first time you've really thought about this,
mm-hmm.
then I think you have a really good relationship you probably don't want to trade in right now.
Right.
More to the point, I don't think you're thinking about this in an entirely adult way.
Right.
In that you are with someone, couples bend and flex for each other all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's more than one solution to any situation life throws at you.
Mm-hmm.
welcome to the 2020s and beyond. There's going to be more flexibility.
Right.
So even if his career is limited to an area, right now,
Right.
that doesn't mean he is, and it doesn't mean he's limited to just that job.
Right.
That is so tightly connected to one area. And it doesn't mean you're 24/7, 365 for the rest of your life connected to that area. It may mean you have to do some things and make some concessions and consider some things and do things a little differently than this 1950s. You follow your spouse to where the money is and you're just stuck there forever. Right. That's not the world we live in. So I say back off, like pump the brakes on ending the relationship for your career, because you're still living in hypotheticals. Yeah, you don't have it yet. You don't have the opportunities in front of you. Like, they potentially will come.
Right.
But I think you're trying to track yourself and remove every impediment, any hurdle, obstacle you could have, so you don't know that those are coming.
Right. Well, and I was also reading this thinking about to when you were in college, and they were selling you, because they sold me the idea too, that your career is your career. It's going to be the same career you'll ever have. You'll find a place to work, and that place will be your life's position forever.
Like, what is it now? People change jobs every decade? Like, as in you have a career change roughly every decade you're alive?
Yeah.
So, like, there are people in their 80s on their 8th career now. That literally, it is an evolving world. Things are changing. This may not even be a job, a career, a sector for either of you in 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to trade today a great relationship on the premise that in 20 years you might still be in the same position, same not exact job, but the same field, and looking to elevate your career to the next level, and oh gosh darn it, your husband is still tied to this place, and there's just nothing we can do.
Right.
I think that's a little overthinking it.
Exactly. Furthermore, with the amount of careers that are moving remote, moving into independent contractors, like, your viewpoint's very one-sided 1980s viewpoint. So, leave the boyfriend alone.
Yes. I would also point out to anyone looking at their long-term career to keep one more thing in mind. And it's a little story from my UNCG Bryan School of Business and Economics MBA Student Service Office days. I had the weirdest phone call one day from this woman who was hysterical.
Right.
And there's no other way to describe it. She was hysterical. She was a whole truckload of emotions.
Right.
Who started this conversation with basically, hi, I was interested in what I would need to do to start to go into the MBA program. I already have a master's degree in education, and I'm currently a kindergarten teacher, and I want to kill them.
Right.
And jaw drop moment is, what? And so she continues and says, I know how horrible that sounds. She said, but I really do. I hate them. I can't stand them. I hate children.
Mm-hmm.
Again, jaw drop moment. And so I'm having to work through this call. And so she goes on to eventually explain is that she did this whole degree program.
Mm-hmm.
She had set herself up all the way from like middle school. I'm going to be a teacher. When I grow up, I'm going to be a teacher. She got to high school. I'm going into education. She went into education. She got the bachelor's degree. She did all the hours and got her master's and all the things that required, all the training, certifications, credits, all of it. Went into her first classroom and became the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And she suddenly realized she hated children.
Mm-hmm.
She can't stand them. She hates other people's kids. Can't stand them. They're driving her fucking nuts.
Mm-hmm.
When you start looking at a career in your mid-20s after you've just gotten the degree,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes life likes to show up and slap you in the face with a sudden dawning realization. This isn't for you.
Right.
Do not collect $200. Do not pass go. Go straight back to college. Get another fucking degree. This is not the field for you.
Yes.
So be careful making decisions as you're coming out of your education as to what you're doing for the next 30 years until you even are certain this is where you want to be for the next 5 minutes.
Right.
Because sometimes we get into those jobs
Right.
and it's not the world we imagined.
Exactly. All right, guys, so let's look at the poll. You
right.
are not the asshole for not wanting to repaint your house.
Yay!
Yay.
I don't know. I'm happy I'm not the asshole. I still think there's a missed opportunity, but
yeah,
not the asshole. And that's kind of where it was. Is you're not the asshole.
Right. All right, guys. So there will not be coffee and tea this week. British Power Company has decided they need to upgrade their lines during our show time.
Oh no! Oh no, that's horrible.
Right. So,
I mean, yay, new power lines and upgrades and taking care of your infrastructure. I'm all about that.
right. So there is not a coffee and tea. We will be back at 9 p.m. for Mountain Bears on Friday.
Yay, 9 p.m. new time.
Exactly, new time. Look forward to us then. We already got our articles picked. Because we over researched this one.
I know, right?
Right. So with that, guys, we do want to take a moment to thank our sponsors.
Absolutely. So, of course, we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Tracy Van, Caitlin Bell, and Devin. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcspnetwork.com.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.